Hey, welcome to the next 90%. I'm Erin. Caitlin.
Matt?
Dobbins.
We're here with Caitlin Kay talking about the journey that she's been on leading through her DDPY journey and leading up to the surgeries that she's had.
All right, hi everybody. So some of you might know me, some of you might not. I just want to walk you through my journey, what I've been through, how I got started, and then leading up to talking about the Positively Unstoppable Challenge, and then what happened afterwards, leading up to my massive surgery this summer. I had multiple surgeries, so we'll talk about that. At the end, if anybody has any questions further too, please throw those in the comments, and I'm happy to follow up later. So just to get started, I, at my heaviest, was 299 pounds. I got on the scale, and at some point I was probably above that, but you just kind of avoid the scale and you ignore it for a while. But at that particular day, I got on and it said 299, and I couldn't face myself getting to 300. That was really a breaking point for me. I had obviously felt really crappy before that and didn't feel great. Most likely was pre-diabetic at the time and had a lot of injuries and was trying to do dance and was, doing okay as best I could, but it was wearing on my knees and my joints was really starting to hurt. So I wanted to find something that I could start with that was manageable, because a lot of these things like CrossFit and a lot of the more intensive like weights and cardio, it just seems very insurmountable and something that I just couldn't get started with. And so I found DDP on Reddit as a Reddit post. It was somebody had shown their progress of their weight loss, and really what they talked about was being able to do something while super heavy. And so I believe the gentleman he was at somewhere between 350 and 400 pounds, and so he started in the chair, and he worked his way up, and so that's how I got started with the DVDs. And so the really old DVDs, like we're talking like YRG yoga. Really back in the day. So I still have those somewhere. But yeah, so I started with those and it was really successful. I dropped almost 50 pounds, like I would say relatively quickly. And so that was just really exciting. And so from there, I was able to dance more, which was super exciting. And it had the opportunity to start moving more. And that was in 2016. And so, however, I kept going, but around 2018, I started to show signs of what I now know is an autoimmune disease. I have several, but one of them is a debilitating joint disorder, which means at some point my joints can go into what's called a flare up. And so I remember specifically, I was at dance class one night and we were doing a really low energy song that was super easy. I knew the choreography by heart as an instructor, wasn't thinking anything of it, and I couldn't physically move. I had to stop in the middle of the song, not because I was winded, but because my joints weren't moving. We later learned that what happens is that my joints wear out to the point of fluid buildup, and I then am not able to move. And I was so devastated. Cried in the car with my dance partner that night and just sat there and said, I don't know what's wrong with me. As someone who's bigger, sometimes you learn not to fully trust medical people because you get told different things. You get told, you can't do this or you're doing the wrong thing. And so it was a big step for me to go to my doctor and say something is wrong. Thankfully, I have a really wonderful primary care physician that she, 100% believed me and said, like, let's refer you out to a rheumatologist and get you, set up. And then I have the best rheumatologist in the world that has worked with me for almost 3 years now to get me diagnosed with everything. Um, just quickly, for those who don't know, not all autoimmune diseases have tests. You do a lot of process of elimination and a lot of different medications to figure out what works for you to make things easier. I will never be free of the autoimmune diseases. They are for life, and there are no cures for them, unfortunately. So it's just really about management. So once I was able to get to that management point, I could get back on the mat. Unfortunately, I got derailed because of that. And so I had put some of the weight back on, but I kept about 30 of it off, which was pretty decent for me. I had never lost any weight before. I'd been heavy set pretty much since about 13 or so. Dealt with a lot of depression my whole life. I have a binge eating disorder. And so starting to manage those things is where I started to pivot in the time that I was unable to work out. So I really looked into the diet and eating and kind of what it would take for me to get better. And that really actually worked with DDP and tandem because they're talking about anti-inflammatory. And now I have a joint disorder where my rheumatologist is literally saying you need to be anti-inflammatory with your eating. So gluten and dairy went out the window. Rest in peace, because I do miss them. But really taking those out and then really reducing my sugar, which can also be inflammatory. And so meats and veggies, pretty simple. So most of my day to day is I later on, but I did intermittent fasting. But for the most part, my diet. People ask a lot is primarily meats and veggies. I try to do more chicken. I do like the red meat though. Pretty prone to the beef and the venison and all the yummy things. But I always try to keep that to once, maybe twice a week. But just the usual that, and then trying to throw some fish in there occasionally for some omegas. But overall, it really became a lifestyle change. That's a really big part of this. Is it's not just the exercise; it's the diet. It's what you're eating for the rest of your life. And so, I think that took me a long time to recognize, and it's something that I know a lot of people still struggle with. Is that you have to realize that once you change over what you're eating, that's forever. And so, going back to the other stuff isn't going to work because then you're just going to put back on what you got off. Um, so from there, after I got my management down, my eating down, I was finally really to get like straight back on the mat, and that actually was timed super well because that was the first time the Positively Unstoppable challenge was really happening, and so I got to really see that happen. And I joined in the 2019, and I said, this is something I really wanted to use to push myself and be a competitor against myself. So over the course of that year, I think I lost somewhere between 30 and 40 pounds, which again was like really good progress for me. But I knew I needed to push more. And so the contest ended in like September, October. And I said, screw it, I'm going to keep going. And so I kept going through those months. They announced the winners, cool, cool. I didn't win and I didn't expect to. I don't think I really had enough of my journey yet. Like I was very much still in the middle of it. And so 2020 came in. I was like, you know what? This is my year. This is the year that I'm going to everything's going to happen because I've had it. Like, I want to do this for myself. Um, and then COVID happened. Surprise. Um, while it was really unfortunate in sense of timing for a lot of people, I recognized, I think, a little bit more of I saw what this is going to be. I said, I'm going to be working from home. They reduced my hours. So I went from full time to working like 2, 3 days a week. So I had a lot of free time. And I said, look, I could sit on the couch and binge eat. It'd be very easy to, especially with COVID. We're at home, we're doing nothing. Or I could start working out like 2, 3 times a day because what else am I going to do? And so I really had an overhaul and I really used the time to myself to take care of myself to make that major change. So I did the DDP on the mat. I at that point had switched the app. And so I was doing workouts on the app. And then I started to add running very, very slowly. So a lot of people see that I'm now a long distance runner. I started at trying to run for 30 seconds straight. That's it, because I couldn't run 30 seconds straight. And I built up over time, long time. And so over about 6 months, I worked up to running a half marathon very gradually. And that's something I really worked at. So for my success, it was DDP, which was a lot of like my joints and movement and stretching and flexibility, and then the running was my cardio, which was something for me. I get that runner's high. I chase that dragon of trying to get to that point where my mind clears. And for me, running is very freeing. So it's something that meant a lot to me in my journey. So now the 2020 happened, and I went kind of, all in. And so in 6 months, I lost 75 pounds, which was super exciting. And honestly, it's like one of those things you picture yourself doing, but you're like in the back of your head, you're always like, I can't do this, right? Like, it's not really going to happen, but I'll try anyways, kind of thing. And it did. And I was able to successfully keep it off, which is also something that I was really worried about happening. So I submitted my 2020 submission and heard back I think they called us in November for the first round. I I had that interview, but I was like, nah. Like, it's gonna be a batch of 50 people, and I'm like, not gonna be like, I was like, oh, that's nice. I got a phone call. But then they did call us and tell us, and they told, and Dallas came on and told me that I won second place, which I was shocked. Which I'm sure if they ever show the video, you'll just see me going, so that was really exciting.
That'd be worth it.
Yeah, I just was like, oh, because well, it was funny because they didn't tell us he was going to be on. I thought it was another interview with one of the other guys that works there. And then they're like, here's Dallas. And I was like, so it was just very, very surprising, but it was really cool. Uh, and then in December of 2020, I got the opportunity to go to Atlanta, which some people I'm sure have seen. We got to go to I got to meet my fabulous U4, which is, of course, Justin, Candy, and Scotty, who are now family. Like, it couldn't have been a better group of people to get to, like, see each other, also because we hadn't seen anybody in a while. So that was cool. But getting to go to the PC, get to work out with everybody and have those conversations about, like, wanting to do more, wanting to get more involved. It's all part of the journey because it wasn't just me anymore. It was more than me. Also, in fall of 2020, I had started to do the Zoom online classes because Tina Gaspard gets me into a lot of things because I am not a social person and she is. And so she's very much like sunshine and rainbows. We always say, look, we're the yin to the yang. Like, she is pink sunshine and rainbows. I am black rain clouds and gravestones, and it works. But she had introduced me to the Sham Fam and doing the Zoom online classes. And so I started to build a family and a community that I didn't really have before. So having those classes and then having the U4 kept me going. Because just because I won the contest doesn't mean my journey was over. I still had more weight to lose, and I hadn't hit my maintenance yet. And so January of 2021, I was like, I gotta finish this up. And so I really pushed over the next 6 months to lose the last of my weight, and total have lost 120 pounds, which is like bananas. Um, to give reference, I always use this as an example. My husband weighs 145 pounds, so I am like basically short 25 pounds of losing his entire body weight. Just crazy. I mean, he's also a string bean, to be fair, but very crazy to see that. And so then it came to like the what's next, which is a lot of obviously the next 90 days is what we talk about. And we hit this threshold of, I don't know what we're doing. And so I knew that for me, my choice was like, for me, that's not where my body fits. Hi, dude. But that's not where my body was going to be better. I saw that as like, I got all the way to the end zone and I didn't cross the line. Right. And so I wanted to look into what I could do with all my excess skin. I had an apron on my abdominal, as most women do carry their weight around their waist and hips. And so that's a lot of where my extra skin was. A lot of my thighs. So that whole area is just a lot of sagging, extra skin, stretch marks, the works. My arms were also very heavy and loose. My chest, I said it was a race to my belly button, so I just wanted everything put back where it was. So I met with a wonderful doctor, Dr. Pathy, in Old Lyme, Connecticut, and then in June arranged to have the surgery. So this is actually, it's two major surgeries, but you can't have them all at once. So with the surgery, not everybody does this the same way. I wanted to get my arms, chest, stomach, and thighs done, but you can't have them all done at once. That's because particularly the abdominal reconstruction in the thighs would be conflicting surgery stitchings, and they would actually pull against each other. So what I chose to have done, and some people get these all done one at a time, some two at a time, it just depends. I am a stubborn and impatient individual, and might be slightly Irish. We're a little thick-headed, and so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get as much done as possible in the first one, so that the second one I'm going to coast. So what I chose to do was have my arm lift, chest lift, abdominal reconstruction, and tummy tuck. So what happened in that surgery, so that was in June, so June 18th. So what they did was for this one, they cut a triangle starting at your elbow. And so there's a line here, and a line here, and then they cut it down the middle. and then they sew you down in your armpit. Basically, how you see the seam line in my shirt, it's the same thing. And so once they cut the flaps out, they stitch it all back together. So you end up with a scar from your elbow to your armpit, as you can see in the pictures. And so that does heal differently for everybody, but that one's probably the instance of scarring is a little stronger because you're moving your arm constantly while healing, which stretches the scar out and causes what's called feathering. So a lot of people ask about the scarring. So for that one particularly, you do tend to see wider scars, redder scars, because you are consistently moving your arms while it's healing. Um, and then for my chest, what they do is called lollipopping. So the line in your underbust, they cut up, and the same thing with the arms. They make a little triangle, and then they sew you together, and it pulls the breast tissue up. And they cut out the areola, so they put that back afterwards after they've tightened it up, and everything gets stitched. So literally the shape of a lollipop, and it gets put back on, which I know for some people is a little graphic. So I tried to keep that as subtle as possible. But I do get a lot of questions about it. Scarring for that is actually incredibly minimal. So they use very, very, very fine stitching for the breast because it's such a soft tissue. Compared to your arms are soft, but they're nowhere near as soft as chest tissue. So they really, really are very light touch with that. And so yes, there is a scar, but it's nowhere near like your arms. Your arms are a thicker, tougher skin, and so they have to use bigger stitching. Whereas with your breast tissue, it's much lighter, much finer, and so you don't see as dark scarring. Everybody is different, but compared to the two, it's definitely the lighter one. And then the third part of this was the most intensive and the hardest part to recover from. So, like I said, it was in two parts. There's the abdominal reconstruction, and so when you gain weight, your body obviously produces a lot of fat. The fat gets in between the organs and causes your abdominal muscles to stretch, and can even like separate your abdominal muscles entirely. Some people end up with it completely distended, and it cannot be put back together without surgery. So for me, they said thankfully it had not stretched too bad, but enough where they needed to put it all back together. So what they do is extremely graphic. So I'm going to try to like keep this one a little easier, but you can look it up online. There's plenty of videos. I'm the person that watched every single graphic medical video you could see before I went into surgery because I wanted to know. But they basically open you up and they stitch every abdominal muscle back together. That is the hardest part of the surgery because that's an internal healing. And so because of that, it doesn't heal as fast as everything else. And after that, they go in and they lipo those little pockets of fat that your body basically can't break down because, again, everything's stretched out. So they lipo very minimal. It was mostly just my hips because, again, as a woman, that's where your body tries to hold the fat. And so they took that out. And then they take, as a tummy tuck, I didn't know this, they didn't tell you in advance, they cut your belly button out with what's called a cookie cutter. That's what the medical report says. They call it a cookie cutter. So they take a stamp and they pop your belly button out and they put that over to the side. And then they take your skin, basically fold it down, hence tummy tuck. And so they cut off the flap that they folded down, and then you're stitched back together. And they cut you a new hole with the cookie cutter and then put the belly button back in. Did not know that. So you actually end up with a scar around your new belly button, and mine is higher than it was before. Super weird to get adjusted to. Scarring also is minimal on the belly button. It's similar to the chest scarring. There is a significant scar. It goes hip to hip, and I have wide hips, so it is a very wide scar. Similar to a C-section scar for people who have seen those. They heal differently on everyone. Mine has healed exceptionally well, which I'm happy to throw pictures of that as well. The doctors are extremely impressed, but I think a lot of that also goes to care. So some of the post of this, I'll talk about first, just quickly about the scarring and stuff. It is what you do. It's up to you. You have to take care of your scars. Whatever the doctor says, do. So not long after, they start having you massage the scars to break up the scar tissue. It is painful, but worth it because you can see the difference on a day that you don't massage it, and it's just really hard and firm, and it doesn't heal as well. So things like massaging the scars. There's a silicone-based healing product called Scaraway. I use it every day till still today, and it takes a long time. Healing for these surgeries is 6 months. So it's November now, and I'm only 5 months out. December will be 6 months. some of the questions I get about the surgery, kind of the aftercare. So, okay, they did all that. Now what? Um, so first off, I'm in a fully compression suit. So there was compression sleeves. So you have both the sleeves. It is a long strip, and so it connects in the back with hooks. And then I was in the biggest bra you've ever seen. For those who've had babies, think like the maternity bra they give you to strap you in, but like way tighter. Um,
Ouch.
yeah, it's just woo! It was really big. So they strapped you into that, and then I also had for women, if you know Spanx, it's like Spanx on another level. And so you pull those on, and those zip on the sides, and there is a bathroom hole, so you do not have to take them off every time, which is, trust me, becomes critical. So it's very uncomfortable. I'll be very transparent about that. Especially the first few days of getting adjusted. It is a psychological adjustment as well as a physical adjustment. Seeing your body like that is a heavy trauma. Coming out of it, I was on oxycodone and muscle relaxers. I had a bad interaction with oxycodone. It actually worked a little too well for me. Thankfully, I didn't. It's not like I got addicted or anything, but it was very hard for me to get off because I had very bad withdrawals. So for me, it was a very tough time initially to have those meds because I was loopier than I should have been, but we didn't know that at the time. One of the actually most common questions is for people who don't have a partner, can they have these surgeries? I will say for at least 72 hours, if not a week, really it's closer to a week, you need somebody there. You need physical assistance, particularly if you're having the abdominal, chest, and arms together because you can't move unassisted, to go to the bathroom, to eat, to get washed. I thankfully have my partner here, and he was amazing. My mom also came, and they were trading off so he could sleep, because that's the other thing they don't tell you is the lack of sleep, because you're taking the meds. Two of the meds every 6 hours and another med every 8 hours, which means your sleep becomes very disturbed because you're waking up in the middle of the night to take the medications over and over and over. So you have those challenges to sleep. Movement, they literally want you to get up next day. I was discharged the same day. I had the surgery. An hour after surgery, I was getting up. Yeah. I didn't know that at the time. I knew I was going to be in the hospital. I wasn't going to do an overnight. That's up to your doctor. Apparently, he just thought I was one tough cookie, which he told me later. I didn't know that. So yeah, so it is a lot because they want you to get moving, but that's actually really critical as well. I'm a proponent of do what your doctor says in this kind of stuff because they know you have to get moving because you need the blood flow. That's how you start to heal. It's the grandma walk. You shuffle it in. I'll show you pictures where you can't stand up anyways. Your abs are too tight. So the first few days, I was literally hunched over like this, hobbling to the bathroom. And so the first few days, it's like walk to the living room, and we're back in bed, and now I gotta sleep for 6 hours. But you work up to it. You are able to. The first few days are horrific, but like I've said to many people, it gets better after that. Does get manageable. The first few days, I've never regretted this. There's never been something that's so bad where I'm like, I shouldn't have done this. It's just that you have to get pushing past this part because your body just went through major trauma and now it has to heal. So you have to give that the time and the grace to do that. But yes, you do. I really say you do need some assistance, getting around, getting food access. Bathroom becomes very complicated. Um, I am very actually lucky. I live in a residence hall. I work at a college, as a professional staff member, and because of that, I actually happen to have a Americans with Disabilities Act, so ADA rated bathroom. So I have the safety bars on both sides of my toilet, and my toilet's elevated. So I didn't actually have to worry because I had handicap bars in my bathroom with a really high toilet, so I didn't have to sit low. Not everybody's home experience. So it's a lot of those things that you need to think about ahead of time and sense of care. I got asked about those kind of like minor details.
And
Uh,
getting in and out of the car must have been a nightmare also.
car, we went for the surgery, obviously, and I got in the car, and it was like kind of a tip back situation, but you can't actually, the first few days with the abdominals, you can't move forward without excruciating pain. So it's becoming learning, like even getting out of bed, I was sleeping, mostly sitting up straight because I can't do anything, but it's like even rolling or breathing, coughing, sneezing, anything like that. It's any sort of movement. A sneeze became dangerous the first few days. So there was a lot of like being extremely careful about movement. If you have kids, this was actually, I was talking with a woman the other day about this. You have to be really careful. They cannot jump on you. You know, you have dogs, they cannot jump on you. They really talk about this in the surgery. Is this is all the stuff you have to think about. Um, and the biggest question I get is cost. So it's not just cost in sense of time. I did have to take actually 8 weeks off from work. I'm grateful enough I was able to save that up. So I had 6 weeks of vacation time I had saved because who's going anywhere in COVID anyways? So I had 6 weeks of vacation saved up that I took all of that, and then I had 2 weeks of unpaid, which I am very grateful to be in a situation that I could do that because not everybody is, but to be aware it's 6 to 8 weeks recovery before you can go back to work. But in the sense of cost, I did pay all out of pocket for this. Um, my insurance, very few insurances will cover this unless you have a more extreme skin surgery needs. And it is a debilitating to your lifestyle, but they viewed it as cosmetic, even though my stomach got in the way, I would get skin irritations. It wasn't enough. So I saved up a lot, also winning the second place in the contest, and positively really helped, obviously, as well. So my partner and I were able to pay for it out of pocket. It was total $17,000. So a quick breakdown: you pay a couple thousand for the anesthesiologist, to book the hospital room, and then for the surgery itself. So it's like 3 different payments that you'll make. Um, we paid all of it up front, and then they have the surgery. Uh, Again, this is not an ability everybody has. A lot of people talk about taking loans out. I'm not any sort of financial advisor, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just telling my story of that. We had enough that it's saved up, and we're able to do that. I'm very grateful to people who have done that, because I don't think I could have done that a few years ago. So that made a huge difference. Um, there is some costs additionally, like the compression gear I had to buy myself. I, got a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of items that I'm happy to recommend for people, like giant ice packs. Like I have these ones that fold out, and they're the size of my abdomen, and they were my favorite thing in the whole world because I would just lay these giant ice packs on myself and not move. Having a tray like that, literally at the hospital, how you have a tray that a wheelie tray that you can pull in front of you because you can't turn or pull things to you. So to have those convenience items, again, it's not something you need, it's a luxury really, but it's those small things that really make a difference in your comfort and recovery. So that's kind of the nitty gritty of the first surgery, but unfortunately it's not the last. So my plan was 6 months recovery, and then for the second surgery, they were going to do my thighs. So the way it works with your thighs is that they start it's almost like the arm, like, so they would start, if this is my leg and this is like the top and the bottom, they start at your knee, and then they cut the inside of your thigh and then go up to your crotch, and so it becomes like a Y. So on both sides that gets cut, and then they make the same sort of cut. But again, as you can see, because it goes to your groin area, you couldn't have done the abdominal because they would have pulled. But now that I'm finding, I went to my consultation 4 months out, I do need some touch ups, which does happen because of healing, and they can only see so much in surgery. So I'm going to have to do that first. So what they're saying is that my right breast needs to be just tightened a bit more. So they'll go cut it again, not the whole thing, but just the bottom, and tuck it a little bit better so it's smoother and rounded out. My right arm has a little bit of squish left. I call it squish. I don't know if it's fat tissue and like scar tissue. They're actually that isn't just fixed with an injectable steroid, which should break that down and won't be an issue any longer. And then in my stomach, sometimes when they fold it skin over, the tissue hardens. So they just have to make an incision and go in and like basically extract that little hardened flip over. So because right now it's not very noticeable like with my clothes, but if you were to see my stomach bare from the side, you can see there's like a little blip. So they're gonna kind of take that out and be done with that. So I have some minor stuff I do need to go in and have done before I can go and start the thigh surgery. So I'm actually later this month going in to talk about the touch-ups, and then probably maybe next year, I'm not sure, going in for the thighs. And then for that one, that's about $7,000. So again, I save up some coin to get that done as well. So that's kind of the arc of the surgeries. So right now, I'm still in recovery because I'm only 5 months at my 6-month recovery out of this. For people, that's a lot of people ask is like, I have not been able to start running yet, but it's only because I had started and then got COVID. So my breathing's a little down right now, but I am going to start walking again. I live in New England. It's getting cold, so getting adjusted to go back outside and breathing. But I am back on the mat. I've had some really successful workouts in the last 2 weeks, which is super exciting because I haven't been able to do that in a long time. I've had to relearn a lot of things. Um, having the ability to do things like catcher or down dog or all the stuff. It's taken me a very long time. I still modify quite a bit in certain moves. Other ones I'm doing back to totally normal, no problem. It just depends on the move. But your mobility does take time. It's a lot of patience that I never thought I'd have to have at this level because I'm so determined to do things. But it's knowing those adjustment moments. So that's kind of the overarch of that. But if y'all have questions, fire away. If y'all have ones in the comments, let me know. I'm happy to pretty much answer anything.
Well, one that I've been asked is if you get body dysmorphia. So now that you've had all of this done, do you still see yourself as what you used to be?
Even before the surgery, and I had lost 120 pounds, I still then and still now have moments, not every day, but moments where I am still mentally 299 pounds because you get so adjusted to being physically occupying a certain amount of space that your brain assumes that's the occupied space. So not even just seeing it in a mirror, but something like I have a comedian I'm going to see in a couple of weeks, and it's at a particular theater that notoriously has really small seats. And I always stop to think about it because I have to sit with my legs crossed and sit like this on one hip the whole time so that I'm pivoted enough to sit in the seat. That's something that I realized I will not have to do. Or like when I flew on an airplane, I was in the seat with the arms down. You know, it's those things that you don't think about because you're getting so used to assuming that you're not going to fit in a space or occupy a space. Um, there's other things that are tricky with like perceiving numbers, particularly for women's clothing, is really difficult. Women don't have a standardized sizing, and so I could be, a 2X in something and a large in another, and da da da. But overall, going from my heaviest at a size 28 pants, and women's goes in evens by so I was at a 28, and I'm now at a 10, almost an 8 is like a huge thing to wrap my head around. I have like small breakdowns every time. So like getting out of the plus size numbers was a huge moment. Like getting below the 20s was big. Getting, into the teens, and then plus size ends at like 12ish, 14ish, and so coming out of those into like regular size uh, was mind blowing. I will probably have a breakdown on the fitting room floor if I get into a size 8 pant at some point. And it's not like I'm obsessed about the numbers, but it's the reality again. Because for me, I went from a 28 to an 8. Like there should be a 2 in front of that. I'm still expecting that. And sometimes it's the small stuff of like walking across a mirror or having a picture taken of you and seeing yourself. It takes a long time and a lot of adjustment. That goes to the mental health part, which I didn't talk about as much, but I years of depression, years of binge eating, a lot of mental health, work. Thankfully now I'm in therapy, and making a lot of progress with myself and my journey and accepting who I am and being proud of the work I've done and owning it because like I post about this stuff every day on my Instagram, and I try to be as transparent as I can. Like I don't have good days all the time. I am not that perky like Peloton instructor that's like going to be like woo all the time. I don't have that. I want to show these moments where I am down. Maybe I had something I shouldn't have eaten, or I can't get on the mat because my autoimmune's flaring up, or I just don't feel good about myself. Those are going to still happen, but you have to have those other times where you're like, you catch yourself and you're like, wow, I've done that. And not in a way of like, I'm the shit, but it's the way of, oh my goodness, I'm actually doing something for myself. I accomplished this. Look at what you did, and seeing yourself in a different way takes that time. And I still catch myself all the time just assuming something. And I think it's also, I'm in a bit of a middle because my thighs haven't been done yet. And so my body shape is a little lopsided right now. It might not look it when I have clothes on, but like when I'm, I'm standing in front of a mirror without clothes, it's my top, everything's very small. And then I get to my thighs and they're like, but ow. So those still don't fit right. And even getting jeans on, I probably already an 8 if I had the thigh surgery, but because I have so much excess skin down there, I can't get it. I can't get them on. I think they would fit my waist fine, but I have my thighs aren't done. So I'm also that's the problem is the give and take of like I've come a long way, but I still have this, and so I think after I get that, will be more complete in my head because then it will literally physically look more complete because I will have gotten rid of the last of my excess skin.
I think Justin and I will understand the babao because we wear babao.
Yep, not that it looks bad per se, but it's just like really tiny, and then it's like because I'm still, it does balance is I think it is in my head, and then literally trying to be in a fitting room with pants, I'm like these need to have spandex. So
Yeah, just being able to shop at somewhere that doesn't have a DXL or a big guy label.
oh
Is
yeah,
for me because that's
yeah,
been you go from a 6, 7X to now 3X tall.
yeah,
Is it's I still catch myself like I'm able to wear regular people
hmm
clothes now. I don't
oh
have
yeah,
to do the stigma of the big
yeah.
guys. So
Well, that's the thing I lost during COVID, and the fitting rooms were closed. So I was guessing while ordering clothes because I didn't have anything to wear. And so the first time I got to go to a store, I went to an H&M, which I'd never been able to fit in before. And I went into a fitting room. I had a full panic attack because one, I was so overwhelmed by the amount of options normal size people have because I was so used to going to like a Torrid or a Lane Bryant, which are plus size women's clothing stores, and you either get frump a dump grandmother
Yep.
or trashy something. And so
It's
it's
true.
just there was like two pants options, right, or two shirt options, and I go to somewhere like H&M, and there's hundreds in one store, and I had a panic attack in the fitting room because I hadn't even tried the clothes on yet, but I couldn't. It was so much, and so it's something I wasn't aware of. But yeah, but then it's also the fact that I was crying out of joy and relief that I could go pick stuff off a rack and it's gonna fit me. Like, yeah, I might have to go up or down a size, but I have options. The amount of options I have now is I couldn't wrap my brain fully around it, and it surprises me. Like I can go to Target and get something and have options. It's so much. It's so overwhelming. I'm so grateful for it, but yeah, I'm just really it's been so weird because again with like particularly with women's plus size clothing, there's no options. It's so hard to dress.
Oh, it's totally true. I haven't had the surgery, obviously, but I've dropped 40 pounds and
Yeah.
having to replace my wardrobe, going into a store, like I like Winners and Marshalls. I'm Canadian. I like Winners and Marshalls. And
Hmm.
going in and being able to try on whatever I want, coming
Yeah.
out with, like, I have a couple of sweaters now that are a medium, which blew my
Hmm.
mind. And putting something back on the rack, and she says, "Oh, it doesn't fit." No, it's too big. How
Yep.
good does that feel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also like a small medium depending on what it is. Because that was something else that I actually had a lot of women private message me about. They're like, "Aren't you concerned about losing your breast size?" So at the largest I was a double D. I should have never been. It was all fat. There was no actual tissue there, and I am a B cup, most likely an A cup in the long term. Because it's still coming down, but the fact that like I can put on a size small or medium, and at the biggest on my shirts I was like a 2 or 3 XL. Bananas, absolutely bananas. Like that's part of that adjustment. Again, it's like when someone asks you like, "Oh, I'm ordering a shirt. What size are you?" And you're like, medium." Like that's weird.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Good on you.
So I took notes during that. I noticed that I need to build rails around my toilet, and I need to build myself a little shuffle shelf for my bed.
So I think Elise is strong enough, but that's actually something that like the rails plus my partner like got me down up and down, but like I thankfully never really felt. Oh, that was the other thing I didn't mention was that the drainage bags become a very complication because you're in the compression gear and they have drainage bags for your arms and on your hips if you have both of them done at once. Not for your chest usually unless there is a problem with fluid, but more often than not, there's no drainage for that. But so you also have these drainage bags, they clip to you, so there's tubes coming everywhere. So you have to have. That's why again helping with all of that because they have to empty the things. But again, with you particularly, like you're gonna need to have like probably your partner and your maybe like one of your daughters like help you because physically assisting you around the house, getting out of the bed, getting onto the toilet to sit down, like, because like, yeah, I could brace sort of with the metal bars, but you can't put the weight on. So you can kind of hold them for steady stability, but you cannot brace because you can't engage anything because you're risking the surgery by doing that.
I have a chain hoist in the garage.
I'm just saying, like, whatever works. But yeah, no, it's something to seriously consider, especially if you're a taller, or even if you lost weight and you're still like a bigger guy. Like, yeah, it's something to consider because can your partner help support you? Maybe not carry you by any means, but assist you in getting up and down because you can't even like I said, sit up. It's learning all of that, but really it's the first few days that you really need the most assistance, obviously, and getting in that kind of mobility is like super important.
It's certainly humbling, I would think, having to be in that sort of a vulnerable position. Yeah,
real intimate. It's got to be somebody that's real comfortable. Thankfully, it was like my mom who literally like birthed me, diapers and all. So like we're in this, we're fine. And my partner, I'm not a shy or private person to begin with. So it like for me, it was fine. But I could see that could be really hard for somebody else to be vulnerable like that, because literally you are bearing your body to them. Um, and they're gonna have to physically assist you with the bathroom at times, particularly in the first few days. Squatty potty is recommended. I will say we already had one, but the doctor did recommend that. So if you don't have one of those, but everything like that, it just becomes very real. And then like bathing and showering, yeah, that was very difficult. No bath. You couldn't shower for the first week. For women or anybody who has long hair. So what I did was night before surgery, wash my hair and then basically it's like dancer's wax, and had somebody French braid 2 braids down the back of my head so that because I have hair that goes down my back, and so they did that and then wax sealed it so I didn't have to touch my hair for a week, which made a huge difference because if I had all of that hair in the way, it would have caused major problems with all the drainage tubes and stuff, and I just didn't have to worry about it. It just made things a lot easier. So for anyone that's got longer hair, just really consider like the implications of that. I think Matt, you might be in that group.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe. Well, I can send you the dance wax. It'll be fine.
I'll just shine it up.
Yeah, it's all the little details, really, and I'm happy to like go over like more of those people questions. But yeah, it really is. It's so many little things that you have to think about to have this one big procedure done. And so it's all of that. Like, and I'm that person that's like super prepared all the time, and I try to like be as on top of things as possible. But there's still stuff you're not going to expect. I will say padding. So adult diapers or women's feminine products, like literally the ones that after you've had a baby, think that size, are really helpful because the compression gear actually can cut into your groin and create sores. So having padding down there, it's things like that, that really made the difference in comfort. Bath wipes, not like the toilet ones. Like there's ones for actual showering, like if you're going camping or something. Those became critical because you can't shower. So then you'd wash with all the wipes in the morning and, get clean. Yeah. Other questions if you have any? That was a ton.
Sure to comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that was a lot. Again, I'm happy to really go over any of it, be it, diet and exercise and stuff from before or any of the surgery. I will continue documenting as I have my later surgeries too. So if you want to find those, I post them on the DDP page. I also post them on my Instagram. And so I'm always up for answering more on those.
Well, we appreciate how candid you were through this.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I'm pretty much like the TMI in this for me is not really there because I see it as before this surgery, I will say there's nothing posted online. They tell you a little bit about what happens, but nobody talks about aftercare. Nobody tells you all of the stuff that I just went over. And I went in blind. I will say, for those who are on TikTok, there are some truly amazing people who took the time to document their journey on TikTok. There's a lot of them where you'd see them 4 or 6 weeks out. That's great, but what's happening in those first 4 weeks? There is a few accounts that I did find with some really helpful videos, which gave me some kind of clues as to what I needed to be doing. But yeah, that's why I want to be so transparent about the nitty gritty, because so many people don't talk about that, and that's what you really need, is to know what in those first few weeks you're going to be up against. And sure, everybody's different. Everyone heals differently. You know, the meds work differently, but it's just hearing about somebody's story, I think, would have been so much more helpful if I had that opportunity before.
Yeah. And if you have any questions for Caitlin, you can drop a comment or go to our website at thenext90percent.com. In the contact us page will go straight to our email and we can address them there.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining
Thanks.
us on this episode of The Next 90%. Don't forget to reach out to us if you have any questions or comments.